Okay, hello everyone. I am Om Godgi and today we'll be solving Lab 6. So Lab 6 was just all the lab quizzes that happened, the four batches together, and I'll be solving all the lab quizzes basically in this video. Okay, so I this is batch A. I'll start from batch A and go B, C, D. Okay, so the first question was alternating O and X. You have to, given an integer n, you have to just print this pattern here. Okay. um alt x. So you can see in this pattern that on every line there is one space being added. There are a total of n lines and each line starts with a 0, starts with an O. So there will be two loops, two nested loops, and inside there will be one outer loop over each line, and inside there will be one loop to print the gaps and the other loop to print the pattern, and the pattern will alternate like even odd, like this. So you start from 0 and go to uh, so how many uh, there are five symbols at the start. So there will be one variable called m, let's say, which gets decremented in every line, and then n minus m is the number of gaps that you'll have, and the second loop will run from 0 to m minus 1, and you will just print O whenever. Okay, I'll just start writing the code, that will make more sense. See, for int j 0 j plus the 9 j plus plus c, and then for int j equals less than n minus I j plus plus if j and 1 c out x else c out o c out s plus 5. Okay. So I'll explain what I've written. So first, this for loop is over all the n lines that you have in your code, and then this for loop is for printing the spaces. So I iterate over all n lines. Print out the gaps corresponding to line I. Line I contains exactly I gaps and n minus I symbols. Okay. And the symbols alternate between and x starting from O. So this to print the symbols n minus I symbols. So this loop will always start from a 0, right? And that's why j and 1 essentially checks whether j is an odd number or not. So j and 1 is the same as writing j% 2 equals 1, just shorter. Think about this a little, you'll get it. So you have 1. Okay, should I show this? You have let's say j equals 10 in decimal. So j will be equal to 8 plus 2 in binary. And then you do j and 1 which will be equal to 1 0 1 0 and with 1. It's the same as 1 0 1 0 and with 0 0 0 1. So when you do a bitwise AND, you just take the AND of all the bits one by one. So since all of these are zeros, all these bits don't matter, they will all be 0. Only the last bit matters. If the last bit is 1, then it will return 1. If the last bit is 0, which is the case over here, so the answer for this will be 0. One sec, just okay. So since 10 is an even number, it gives you a 0 at the units bit. The unit bit is 0 for even numbers, and that is 1 for odd numbers. I think this is pretty easy to see. So if you have 5, let's say, then in binary 5 will be written as 101 and the last bit is 1. Similarly, if you have 7, it will be 111. If you have 8, it will be 1000. So for odd numbers, the last bit is 1, and for even numbers, the last bit is 0. So that's all I'm checking over here. If the last bit is 0, then it will print a 0. If the last bit is 1, this will give me a 1. And that's what I use to check whether the number is odd or not. So if this gives you 1, then this will be evaluated as true, and then it will print an X. So for all odd J's, I'll just write it over here. For all odd J's, X is printed. For all even J's, O is printed. And that's how you get this pattern as you want. Let me run it once more. 10. Okay, seems to work fine. That was the first question. Okay, so there is a solution given here. This is unnecessarily complicated. You can write 2 loops, it's fine. Okay, pair coders. Okay, now on to the second question. Pair coders. Assign multiple programmers. String of 2 programmers on the upcoming project. The criteria for the forming team will depend on 3 distinct skills. Each programmer has a value of 0 or 1. Both coders are good at new code. What is the question now? Pair coders. So there are just 3 conditions that you have to check, and if all of the 3 conditions are met, then you print compatible, otherwise you print not compatible. Okay, so all these 3 conditions will be connected together with logical and then you will just make sure uh, that they are satisfied. How is the input given? Okay, fine, it's just ones and zeros. So let's start writing the code directly. Simple. I'll create, since there are 6 things, I'll just create 6 booleans: b1, b2, b3, b4, b5, b6, and then cn b1, b2, b3, b4, b5, b6. Since you have learned arrays, I'll rather use arrays directly for int I equals 0, I less than 6, I plus plus cn bi. Okay, now you have, both are considered program compatible, and then I'll create okay, not required. So okay, fine, I'll create it is compatible. Is compatible will store the result, so whatever this computation will do. So the first condition is that both coders are good at new code, which means they should have a skill value of 1 for new code. So this will simply be b0 and or you can just do a bitwise and b0 and b3. You take a logical AND of this with at least one is good at debugging, so this will be b1 or b4, and at least one is good at optimizing, so this will be b2 or b5. If all these conditions are met, is compatible, you will print compatible, otherwise you will print incompatible. Okay, let me run this. Pair coders, let's see if it works. Okay, this gives compatible, oops, incompatible. Okay, my bad, I should have printed not compatible here. Not compatible, I think it should work fine. Okay, so B stores all the inputs and is compatible, stores whether the two coders are compatible or not. You take all of them as input from the user and then compute the expression required. I hope this expression makes sense. So whenever they say that both need to be good at coding, that's when you'll have to use a bitwise AND over here. Why are we using bitwise ANDs? Because both of these are booleans. They only have 1 byte of storage. I mean, you can use, since they are only storing zeros or ones, that's the reason why I've used bitwise AND. It is, you can also use logical ANDs over here and logical ORs. It will work the same way. But yeah, let me just show this once. Not compatible and compatible. Yeah, so you can use any of them, but okay, I'll just use these for simplicity. Then for at least one, like either one of them, either A or B, you need to use a logical OR. And again, at least one, so you need to use a logical OR. And since all three of these should hold, that's why you're connecting them with ANDs, like this and this and this. These three should hold together. And then you store the value in is compatible, and then based on what is compatible it is, you will print out the right string that you want. Yep, that was it for this question. Okay, the next one, abbreviation. Cannot make this out. Conditions. MLIMB. Write down 4 characters. Them in variables, pass them into a function. Okay, I will start coding this alongside reading the program, reading the question. Okay. Okay, they have said that accepts 4 characters, so I'll use a character array now. For int I equals 0, I less than 4, I plus plus, cn ci. Then you store them and you pass these to a function. So okay, fine. Pass these to a function is valid abbreviation, which returns true if the abbreviation is valid and returns false, print yes. So you will do cout is abbreviation. This is how arrays are passed. I'll explain this later on. Yes, no. Okay, so you pass the array and then you pass the length of the array separately to a function. So then this is your main program. That's all your main program does. It will call, okay, I should name this is valid abbreviation. It will call this function, and then based on what it returns, it will print yes or no. So now I'll finish off this function. Bool is over here. I'll have char c and then int n. So this accepts the words character by character and checks if the first letter of the word matches the respective abbreviation character or not. Return false if there is any mismatch, otherwise return true. So to accept characters with spaces at the beginning of the function, write this. So to accept spaces, no skip white space. So when you okay, I'll just take this. When you type machine learning IIT Bombay, you put a space over here. So you want to count this, you want to input this as a character instead of treating this as one thing and this as the other thing, which is what happens if you type A, B. This will be treated as two different characters, A and B. But that's not what you want. You want to input this space as well. That's the reason why we type no skip white space at the start and read the input string until this is encountered. So you will have a character, I'll name this something else, chr. You will do cn chr while chr not equal to \n, and then you keep reading in a character. Okay, Then they have told you check if the first letter of the word matches with the respective character, respective abbreviation character or not. Okay. How would you do this? And so I think I'll make the code better later on. But for now, you keep reading this. New word equals if new word and not equal to return false. New word will be equal to false and CTR plus plus. Okay, let me see if this works or not first. ABBREV.cpp. Oops, I haven't taken care of capital and lowercase letters. One sec. Yeah. If else if CHR is less than A, CHR equals CHR minus I'll convert everything to capital CHR minus A plus A. If CI is greater than equal to A, CI equals A minus A. Why did it got entered twice? What? Anyways, this gave me a yes. Then I have have I made a mistake? J E J F. Oh. All right. I'll do this over here. Oops. Okay, why is this giving a no? Alright, this is fine. JEJF. Okay. But then this is not fine, I guess. If CHR greater than CHR plus equals A minus A. This was left, so the first letter was not small, but is that the issue here? I don't think so. So you will also see how to debug your code. So when I enter this, it should detect AMLA whenever new word is set to true. So I'll just do this. If new word cout, so you'll be able to see what's getting printed here. Only A is getting printed and it is printing a no, which means this isn't matching up. CTR isn't matching up with. Okay, so I'll just print both of them here, CTR, to see what is the issue exactly. So okay, once you have set this, you need to read another character, which is something I did not do. CNCHR, and then this. Okay, this should work fine, I guess. AML. Why is it not printing any character here? Oh, this reached 4 somehow. Why did it reach 4? AML is fine. You are false. This is happening twice. See? Okay, got it. New word and yep. Okay, fine. The better way to do it is write this and then put this inside and then get rid of this entirely. Okay. Okay, then you have no. Oops, why did this give at IIT Bombay? There's not an abbreviation for any word. Okay. Return counter equals 4 n. So okay, fine. No. Yes. Okay, I think this is right now. Alright, so I'll explain what I have written. So this is pretty simple. Create a boolean array to store abbreviation, then take the abbreviation as input from the user. So you will take the abbreviation as input, you will read 4 characters in, and if one of the characters is lowercase letter, then you just convert it to an uppercase letter so that you can compare all letters. So I'm converting every letter to an uppercase letter for easy comparisons. Then after taking this as input, the abbreviation, I just call is valid abbreviation as was mentioned in the question, and I send the array and I send the length of the array. So if this returns true, then you print yes, otherwise you print no. Okay, so inside is valid abbreviation takes as argument the character array and its size. So this is how you pass an array to a function. You can also pass it this way. You'll learn this later on, but for now let's stick to this because you know this notation. So this just says that C is an array of type character. So every entry in the array C is of type characters, and you're passing this to the function. Over here, see, if you usually write the size over here, right? But when you pass it to a function, you don't put the size here. That's why you need to pass it as an argument separately. So I'm passing 4 separately here, so that I know the size of the array inside. Okay, then I create um, a, a character called chr, which will read the characters one by one from the user, and then I take the first character as input. Then I do the no skip white space. They have told it to do at the start of the function, but doing it at the start makes the first character as a new line. I wanted to avoid that, that's why I put it over here. If you want to do that, then never mind, just follow this. So the first character, if I put this at the top, then this, after typing the abbreviation, this enter that you do, that will also be inputted by the function, and that's why this while loop will get exited, and it will simply return true or false, whatever comes from here. That's why I've put it after the first character is read. Okay, because this whole thing is in a single line, that's why. Okay, fine. So I read the first character in, and I convert the first character into uppercase. Then I set no skip white spaces, and I will keep on reading characters until I encounter a new line. Okay, and then a new word just stores whether I have started reading a new word or not. As simple as that. So ignore this for now. Okay, I'll just add this. Chr reads characters one by one. New word is set to true when a new word is read by the input, is read by the program. Otherwise, it's false. Counter is to index into the array. What else? So we increment counter whenever a match is found, and the counter shouldn't exceed the size of the array. Fine. Okay, I'll explain what I've written. So then this loop is there. Okay, I will skip this for now. I'll jump directly over here. So you do some processing, and then you read in a new character again. So you read the first character here, you enter here, then you read the next character, and then if the next character that you read is a space, then you set new word to true. So this is the start of a new word, and then you take in the next character which is there. So let's say you read U, now you encountered a space, so now you mark new word to true, and you read an A. And now since A is a small letter, you will convert it to a capital letter, and then do the processing for A. So this way each and every letter is processed one by one, and yeah, this is it. So now what is the processing that you have to do? If new word is set to true, which means that if the current character is the start of a new word, check if counter is greater than or equal to n. This means that the abbreviation, I mean the the full form, what is it called? Okay, never mind. The full form has more than 4 words, but the abbreviation only has 4 letters. So this isn't the valid abbreviation, and if C of CTR is not equal to CHR, this means that the letter doesn't match the abbreviation, so it's an invalid abbreviation. So this is all I've written over here. If the counter is greater than or equal to n, which means I am reading the 5th word right now. This will only happen when counter becomes 5, right? And counter increments on every word. So whenever you see a new word, counter will get incremented. So if counter is equal to 5 here or 4, since it starts from 0, so it will mark that you are reading in a 5th word, a 5th new word or a 6th new word or whatever, and so you should return a false because your abbreviation is only of 4 words. And this is if the abbreviation doesn't match the first letter of this word, then you also need to return false. Okay. Else if the character matches the abbreviation, set new word to false and increment counter to make it ready to compare the next letter of the abbreviation. So if it matches, then you set new word to false. So I have processed this particular word, I will set this to false, and then I will increment the counter, making it ready to compare the next letter of the abbreviation. And then this keeps on continuing. Read in the next letter. If the character was a space, this marks the start of a new word. So set new word to true and input the first letter of this new word. If the character is lowercase, convert it to uppercase. And then at the end, if counter not equal to n, this means that all the letters in the abbreviation haven't been matched. So see, if what have I written? If counter was greater than or equal to n, greater than n basically, then it would have returned false over here. But okay, wait, what have I written? Counter should be equal to 4. Okay, fine. This means, okay, so after you have matched the 4th letter, counter will be set to 4 because it starts from 3. It starts from 0, my bad, sorry. So the first letter counter is 0, the second letter counter is 3, the third letter counter is 2, and the fourth letter counter is 3. So after the fourth letter is matched, counter will be set to 4. And that's what I'm checking here, that the whole array has been matched, like all the 4 letters have been matched to a particular word or not, because in this case over here, um, A, I, B match the abbreviation, but there are only 3 words here. So O is not matched. That's why I need to make sure that all the letters in the abbreviation are matched with a word or not. That's why this is written over here. Yep, that is all for this question. What was the solution given for this? Yeah, this solution looks slightly more complicated, but you can go through this as well if you want to. This uses 4 different characters and if else's. Okay, fine. This was batch A done. Yeah, so the first 2 questions were pretty easy. The third question required some thinking, but it was doable. Yep, that's all. Okay, now moving on to batch B. Okay. Diamond pattern. Okay. N equals 5. This should be printed. An odd integer. And refers to the number of rows in the pattern. The center of the pattern contains this. The left half should be filled with X characters, the right half should be filled with O characters. The pattern will have n rows and each is separated by a space. Okay. So, okay, so let's start and include simple CPP and n c and n for and equals 0 then n I plus plus instead I could start from minus n by 2. It shall be minus 2 in this case, n by 2 I plus plus. If outside if I equals n by 2, how many characters will there be? There will be n by 2 characters on each side. So 7 is 3. Okay. And then there will be n by 2 minus I spaces on each line and I characters. What? N by 2 minus I spaces and I characters on each. Okay, for j equals 0 less than I j plus plus, and for j equals 0 j less than n by 2 minus I j plus plus, C out x, then okay, my bad. So this is two spaces, and then you do cout, and then again the same thing but with an O, and this, okay, this is not required, you just do cout ender here. Okay, diamond, oh, upside. Okay, 5 works, 7 works, 3, is this correct? Okay, 7 or 8, 9, okay. So I'll explain what I have written now. Okay, so you have this pattern, and as you see it is symmetric in the center. So instead of writing a loop that goes from 0 to n, I write a loop which goes from minus n by 2 to n by 2. So the reason for this is okay, you might see that on each line there are okay, I'm considering two spaces. Two spaces is a single space because every character has a space in between. These spaces are there, right? So I'll consider two spaces as one space. So you will see that there are, okay, wait, this might be confusing. Okay, fine. So on the first line there are 4 spaces. Okay, this is good to start. So there are 4 spaces on the first line, then second line there are 2 spaces, third line there is no space, fourth line there are 2 spaces, and fifth line there are 4 spaces again. Okay, this is something you understand. And there are no numbers or outputs here. There is 1x, there are 2 x's, then there is 1x again, and there is 0 x's over here. So I need a number which will go from 0 to 2 and then go back to 0 again. Does this make sense? 2 is nothing but 5 divided by 2 in integers. So you will require a number that starts from 0, goes up to n by 2, and then goes back to 0 again. That will be the number of x's and the number of o's that you print on each side. Let me take a bigger example. This is a better example. Over here you start from a 0. So you have 0, then you have 1, you have 2, you have 3. 3 is nothing but 7 by 2 in integers because the 0.5 is thrown away. So one of your you need a number that will go from 0 up to n by 2 and then back to 0 again for printing the x's and the o's. Alright, and for the spaces you will need a number that goes from, over here you have how many, 1 2 3 4 5 6, you have n minus 1 spaces over here, then you have n minus 2 spaces here, wait, no, you have n minus 3 spaces here. How many are there? 1 2 3 4, yeah, n minus 3 spaces. Then you have 2 spaces here, which is nothing but n minus 5. So this was n minus 1, n minus 3, n minus 5, and then n minus 7. So the number of spaces are reducing by 2 each time. They go to 0 and then they go back to n minus 1. Okay. What else? All right, so that's what you need to do. So I'll explain my code now. So I start my counter from minus n by 2 and it goes to n by 2. So instead of having I as 0 here, I start from minus n by 2. Then so this will be minus 2 here, then it will be minus 1, it will be 0 here, 1 here, and 2 here. The reason why I chose it to go from minus 2 to 2 is because the symmetry in the pattern. So as you see, there is symmetry over here, right? It is symmetric about this point here. So if I give 0 over here, then I'll have minus 1 for this and 1 for this. I'll have minus 2 for this and 2 for this, and I'll have minus 3 for this and 3 for this. So if I just take the absolute value of I, whatever I do in this part of the code, I can copy it and do the same thing over here. That is the reason why I am iterating from minus n by 2 to n by 2 and taking the absolute value of I, so that all these cases will get handled together. So minus 1 and 1 will get handled together, minus 2 and 2 will get handled together, and minus 3 and 3 will get handled together. The 0 case will be handled separately. It will not merge with any other case. Okay. Alright. So then I take the absolute value of I, which will give me like what case is it exactly. Is it this case or this case or this case, and so on. Okay, fine. Then okay, so abs I over here will be n by 2, and as you know, this line contains n minus 1 spaces. Alright, so over here there are 6 spaces, and abs I for this case will be 3, because n by 2 will give you 3. So over here I write a loop which goes from 0 to abs I. So this will loop around 3 times, and I will print 2 spaces in every iteration, right? So I'll get a total of 6 spaces over here. If I were to look over here, in this case I have 4 spaces over here that I need to put, and abs I in this case will be 2 for the first iteration, because minus n by 2 will be minus 2, and then abs I will be 2. So I will loop around 2 times and print 2 spaces, so that will be a total of 4 spaces. Okay, so prints out the initial spaces before the X pattern is printed. There be a total of 2 into abs I spaces on each line. Okay. This I only got from observing how the pattern is, right? Then since there are always a total of n minus 1 characters on a particular line, so see there are 4 characters over here all the time. So once I put abs I number of spaces, then there will be n by 2 minus abs I number of characters that I have to put on that particular line, because there are always n minus 1 characters in total. So if I have put x characters, then the remaining characters will be n minus 1 minus x. Okay, so that's why I loop around n by 2 minus abs I times, and then I add x and a space. So there is a space over here, right? So for that I just need to put this space over here. Actually this whole problem will be easier if you ignore the spaces, so that's what I'll explain. Wait, the spaces are just there so that you can see it properly, but for now forget that there was any spaces in this question. It will make it easier for you guys to understand what is going on. Okay, fine. Let's say your pattern was this, like you want to make this pattern, So over here there will be just two spaces, over here there will be one space, over here there will be one space, and over here there will be two spaces, right? So that's why my loop goes as -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. As you can see, the absolute value of this number gives you the number of spaces on each line without those extra spaces, right? So there are two spaces here, there's one space here, 0 space here, one space here, and two spaces here. So this gives you the number of initial spaces on each line. Every line has two characters in total. So if a line has h spaces, or in my case absci spaces, then the number of x's followed will simply be 2 minus absci, or in general n by 2 minus absci. So since I have taken n equals 5 here, that's why I'm getting this 2. But in general, if you have a general n, you'll get an n by 2 over here. So yeah, so let's look at this over here. There is one space over here, and every line has two characters, so you have to print one x. So you'll have to print 2 minus absci x's after you've put the space. That's all I've written over here, and that's all I've done in the code as well. These spaces are just there because you just need to look at it properly, that's all. Other than that, that's all the code is doing. First you put absci number of spaces, then you put n minus 2 absci number of x's. After that you put this the middle line thing, and then again you put n by 2 minus absci number of o's, because the x's and the o's are the same on each line, and then you just start a new line. Yep, that's all for this question. Okay, let me see if it works properly for a big number. Okay, fine. Okay. Yep, this code has more comments, so you can go through this if you didn't understand what I said. He runs it from 1 to n, and he prints the number of spaces separately. So yeah, it's bigger, but you will understand that better, I guess. Did we have to use a function for this? Okay, never mind. Okay, course allocation. Choose from a variety of courses based on their academic year. Alright, so there are certain rules that need to be followed, and then you have to print whether it is valid or invalid. Okay. First, you take a character degree. Alright. Followed by the year. So the year will be a number. So you create int year. You can write this in a single line. Here this works year. Okay. Then followed by a single character denoting the course type from the user. If the course type complies with the rules, print valid as invalid. Wait, let me check the... Okay, fine, there's only one for each. So you will have course type. Okay. Now let's look at the rules that you have to apply. Okay, then you will just do bool is valid, and then if it's valid you will print valid, else you will print invalid. Okay, so now we have to write the logic for computing is valid. So if it is first year, you can only take institute electives. So you can just write this as year equals 1, and then course type equals I. Okay, this might be slightly complicated. So I'll first start with if degree equals BTech, else. Alright, so let's handle the BTech students first. So over here is valid will simply be year equals 1, and course type equals I, or can take year equals 2, and then course type equals C, or year equals 3, and then so over here it can take third years can take 3 types of courses, so it is easier to write not equals to T instead of writing all the 3 cases, and then you can write year equals 4, and then course type equals E. Yeah, that is your computation for is valid. You can also write this in if else statements, but I feel this is easier to write. Similarly for MTech students, year equals 1, and then course type equals E, or course type equals I. Yep, or year equals 2, course type equals E, or course type equals T. Alright, after is valid is computed, then you will get the right course ./a.out. Okay, let's see. B1I valid, B1C invalid, M1T invalid, M3T M3T is invalid. Why is this valid? Oh, second or third year, my bad. So I can just do or year equals 3, M3T valid, then you have B2I invalid, M1C invalid, B4E valid, and B3T invalid. Okay, fine. So I think my explanation made sense. Oops. So is valid computation for BTech is valid computation for MTech, print out correctly. Yep, that was it for this question. It was an easy question. You don't need to do so many switch cases. You can just write it directly together. Okay, valid strings. Valid strings.c. Given a sequence of characters, you need to determine whether the sequence is valid or not. Contain uppercase and lowercase letters. Sequence is valid if all characters belong to the same category. The entire sequence must consist of uppercase letters if the first character is lowercase. Alright, so okay. A valid string is basically any string which has all either it has either lowercase or uppercase. It shouldn't have both together. What about a string completely filled with numbers? I think is it given? Assume that characters will be from. Okay, the first character will always either be an uppercase or a lowercase letter. So you cannot have a string of all numbers. It will have one letter at least. Okay, fine. So here's how you can solve this. Simple CPP and how is the input given? Okay. You will create two booleans. Contains upper equals false and contains lower, and then you will check the XOR of both of these. Contains lower XOR contains upper. If the XOR is 1, then you will print yes, otherwise you will print no. Okay, did you understand this first? So the reason I'm taking XOR of these two is because I only want one of them to be true. I cannot have both of them to be true, so either this should be 0 and this should be 1, or this should be 0 and this should be 1, which is exactly what the XOR operation does. Both cannot be 0, that's what I made sure. Since the first letter is always a letter, an uppercase or lowercase letter, you cannot have both of them as zeros. At least one of them will be 1. So this just makes sure that both of them are not 1. You can also go and write this not of this, like take the AND of both of them and not of both of these. It will be the same, but instead writing this is much simpler. Okay, then what you'll do is you will take in an integer n, and then you'll have a for int I equals 0, I less than n, I plus plus cn c. If c greater than equal to or c less than equal to 9, sorry, and continue. So I'm skipping all the digits. Else if c greater than equal to a, which means it is lowercase, so you'll set contains lower to true, else you'll do contains upper to true, and then you'll just see out this valid strings dot cpp dot slash a dot out. Let's see, no, yes, this should also give no, Yes. No. Yes. No. Okay, fine. This was an easy question. All you needed to do is just check whether it contains upper and lower letters, and then just take the XOR of both of them. Yeah, that is what is done in the solution as well. They just wrote two different functions. Well, okay, first upper lower. Okay, fine. This solution is bad. Follow this. This is much easier. You just taken um, booleans to check whether the string contains uppercase and lowercase letters. Fine. Iterate over every character. Input each character one by one. If the character was a digit, simply continue. If a lowercase letter is found, set contains lower to true, and the same thing for this. If an uppercase set contains upper to true, print out the right string. Fine. Yeah, that was it for this question. Thank you. Okay, now batch C. So the first question is dash pattern. So for n equals 3, the pattern looks like this. There will be 2 n rows. Each row, the pattern starts first row and decreases one by one after every. So the first thing you should see is that it is alternating. For even numbers, you print on the left side, and for odd numbers, you print on the right side. I'm starting from 0, so 0 is even, then 2 is even, then 4 is even, and then 1, 3, 5 is odd. Okay, fine. Okay, let's start making this. The number of spaces is 2 here, and it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over here. Okay, alright. Code simple CPP int main. You take an input in. Alright. For int I equals 0, I was then I plus plus. Okay. If I and 1, then you will have to put 2 in. So n minus I this will be 3 n minus I plus 1. So for int j equals 0, j less than n minus I plus 1, j So for 1 you print 3, for 3 you print 2. So you will do I by 2 j less than n minus I by 2. J plus plus C out C out and okay, then you'll have else this thing over here and then C out and back. Take you away. So I'll explain why I removed that code later on. Let's see if this works. Dash pattern a dot out. Alright, 3. Oops. There was a small error. Okay, this is not correct. So alright, there are 4 spaces on this line, so I'll have to take line I by 2. So n minus I by 2 will be 0. This will give me 3 plus 1. Okay, this is correct, I guess. 3. Alright. Nope. So how many spaces will there be over here? I by n minus I by 2 plus 1 minus there is always n plus 1, so n plus 1 minus n minus I by 2 plus 1, so that would be I by 2. So for j equals 0, j less than I by 2, j plus plus C out space 1. Okay. Is this right? Okay. 5. Alright, 7. Okay. Alright, can I make this better? I'll make this over here, 7, alright, 5, okay, fine. Okay, what you can do is place this over here. Fine. Okay, so let me try one. Alright, okay, as you saw, I made a few changes here and there to make it correct. So yeah, you won't get it on the first try. You have to figure out what is the best way to write the code. Okay, you have to make this pattern. There are 2n lines, that's why there is this this for loop iterates over each line one by one. Okay, so now the difference between these two lines is just the number of spaces that are there here. If you see this line and this line, they are exactly the same lines, just there are some extra spaces added over here. Alright, there is some space over here and there is some space over here and there is some extra space added, and you're making the same pattern over and over. So that is this part over here. You just add appropriate spaces. So if it's an odd number, if I is odd, that means you need to add some extra spaces over here. And if it is an even number, then you just need to add some spaces to get this thing ahead. And then you simply print this recurring pattern, which is this standing line thing, then a few minuses, and then another standing line thing. Okay, alright, that is the overall idea. Now I'll explain how to calculate stuff. Okay, so fine, let us look at how to draw this pattern first, this part of the code. So every one of these patterns starts with a vertical bar and ends with a vertical bar. That's why I have put this and this over here. And it has, so the first line has 5 dashes, the second line has 5 dashes, third line has 4 dashes. So you are checking I by 2. So depending on what I by 2 is, your dashes are changing, because 0 and 1 are the same, then 1 and 2 are the same. So 0 by 2 and 1 by 2 both give 0. 1 by 2 by 2 and 3 by 2 both give 1, right? So depending on that I value, you will calculate how many dashes are here, which is exactly what I have done in my code. So n minus I by 2 will give you the number of dashes on some line. So okay, let's take this line here. So I is 1 here, I by 2 will become 0, and you want to print 5 dashes here. So n is already 5, so 5 minus 0 gives you 5. If you take this line over here, I by 2 will give you 1, and 5 minus 1 will give you 4. So this gives you the correct number of dashes that you need to print for a particular line. Okay, so now you know how to print this pattern for every line. Alright, now let's talk about how to print the number of spaces. Okay, let's talk about the even ones first, and then I'll tell how much space you need to add for the odd ones. So this is the case for the even ones. So there are I by 2 spaces on each line for the even ones. So over here I is 0, so I by 2 will be 0. There are no spaces, so no space will be added. Over here I is 2, but only one space needs to be added. That's why I've done I by 2. Then over here I is 4, but 2 spaces need to be added. That's why I by 2 is there. Then here I is 6, 3 spaces. I is 8, 4 spaces, and so on. That's why this is there. It just adds I by 2 spaces before this particular thing. Okay, so now for the odd ones, there are I by 2 spaces and there are some additional spaces. So these additional spaces are nothing but n. So this was n minus I by 2, as you remember, n minus I by 2 plus 1. So these are the additional spaces that you have. So this number n plus 1 that I have written here below is nothing but I by 2 spaces for this pattern, for the pattern same. Okay, I'll just write the equation first. I by 2 plus n minus I by 2 plus 1. Okay, so I by 2 is the initial spaces for the I'll just call them even patterns. Then you need to add these many spaces over here and these many spaces over here as well. So this is just the number of dashes plus 1. So the number of dashes n minus I by 2 is the number of dashes in the pattern, and 1 is added to account for the space of this. Alright, I by 2 spaces before the even patterns are printed. Printing out the common pattern. Yep. You don't need these. 7. Alright, fine. Yep, that was it for this question. What is the code given? Print pattern. They have done something similar, calculating the number of spaces and then just printing the spaces and printing the pattern. Yep. Okay, one sec. Okay, now on to the second question. Card points. You are playing draws a sorted sequence of 8 playing cards with 4 suits. Considered sorted if it follows in alphabetical order. For example, this is valid while this and this is not valid. To reiterate, the sequence of cards drawn will always be in alphabetical order. Calculate the score. 3 points are awarded for 3 consecutive cards of the same suit, and 2 points are awarded for 2 consecutive pair of cards. Each pair contains 2 consecutive cards. Both pairs must belong to the same suit. CC is valid, but overlapping sequences should not be considered. Okay, let's have a look at this. 2 possible sequences of overlapping sequence is not allowed for the same rule. We select only the first sequence, first, second, third, to give a score of 3 points. There are 2 consecutive pairs of C cards. Okay. Okay, fine. Since they have told that it will always be alphabetical, considered sorted. It's a sorted sequence. Okay. Since it's a sorted sequence, you only need to maintain the counts of each of the letters, and the counts will tell you how many consecutive letters were there. Okay, fine. At max you can have 8 letters of the same suit. So okay, you need to check for four numbers, which is 3, 4, 6 and 8. Those are the numbers you need to check for and add scores for those. Fine. Similarly, we process the remaining 4 S cards, adding. Alright, let me start coding this up. Touch. What is this called? Card points. I wanna take you away. Alright. See. For int I equals 0, I less than 8, I plus plus, C in curve. Switch curve. I assume that all of them are uppercase. Is it given? 8 characters will be input and characters will be this. Okay, fine. So then I can do case C, C++, case D, D plus. Don't forget to add breaks. Break. H++. And I'll consider a default case instead of writing the last one. Alright. Okay. Now I will have a score equal to 0, score plus equals, find score, C, score plus equals, find score D, score plus equals, find score H, score plus equals, find score S. Then you'll create a function called find score. Int k. K is the number of cards of a particular suit. Okay. If k equals 8, return. If all of them are one suit, then you will have 2 4s and 2 3s. So you'll have 2 of these, and then you'll have 2 of these as well. So that will be 2 plus 2 4 and 3 plus 3 6, so that will be 10. Return 10. Okay, else if k greater than equal to 6, in this case you will have 2 3 consecutive and I'll type this, I guess, to 4 consecutive. In this case you will just have these 1 4 consecutive. So you'll have return 8, else if k greater than equal to 4. In this case you see you have return 5 for this, because you have one of both. Else if k greater than equal to 3, you will do return 3, just one consecutive. Else you return 0. If you have less than 3 cards, then no score will be there, so you just return 0 in this case. Fine, that's it, that's your code. S++ card points. Oh my bad, C out score dot slash A dot out. Let's put something in. 8, let's try this. 10, let's try this. 0, let's try this. 10, let's try this. 8, 8. Alright, fine. Okay, so as I said, you don't need to keep storing the characters. You just need the count of the characters because they are already sorted. So you just count how many C's are there, how many D's are there, how many H's are there, and how many S's are there, and you store them in 4 different variables, and then you find scores for each of them individually. I call a find score function, which tells me the score for these number of cards, and I add all of them up into score and I print the score at the end. So what does the find score function do? The find score function takes in k. K is the number of consecutive cards that you have for a particular suit. So if you have 8 cards of a single suit, which means you have 8 C's. 1 2 3, this is too small. 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, right? If you have this, then you can have these 4 and these 4. Each of them will give you 2. This gives you 2, and then this gives you 2. Okay, and then you can also have 2 3s. इसमें you can have these 3 and you can have, let's say, these 3. So both of them will give you 3. So your total score will be equal to 10. I should make this smaller, I guess. Alright. Yep, if you have 8 of the same suit, then you will have these things. You cannot have any more consecutive stuff because you cannot overlap them, right? So your total score will be 10. Okay, now what if you have you have 7. If you have 7, then you cannot have these because you can only make 1 4 consecutive. You cannot have 2 4 consecutive things. So you will have this, and in this case your total score will then be 8. Fine. Let's remove one more number from here. You have 6. Even here you can have this, it's fine. Your total score will be 8. When you go to 5, now you cannot have 2 3 consecutive things. You can only have one of them. So this will go away and you're left with only one of these, and now your total score will become 5. Fine. When you go to 5, no problem, you can still keep this. Or when you go to 4, then when you go to 3, you can no longer have 4 consecutive, and your score then becomes 3. Now when you go to 2, you can no longer have this as well, so your total score will now become 0, and for 1 is also 0, for 0 it's also 0. So yeah, that's the code that I've written. If k is 8, you return 10. Otherwise, if it's greater than equal to 6, you return 8. If it's greater than equal to 4, you return 5. If it's greater than equal to 3, you return 3. Otherwise, you return 0. And you add all of them up and you print the final score. That was it for this question. Yep, this solution is slightly more complicated. You have to keep a previous and a current character. I wouldn't recommend doing it this way. The reason why I don't need to keep current and previous is because it is sorted. If you didn't have a sorted sequence over here, like if C D, like you can have a sequence like this: C D C C D C C C D H S H S C D C C. Something like this would require you to keep the previous element as well. Like you'll have to see how many counts of C have been there. You'll have to make substrings basically. Like this is one substring of C's, then this is another substring of C's. This is, yeah, and then you'll have to check like how many substrings have occurred and so on. That will become a complicated question. But since it is sorted, but since it is sorted, then all the C's would appear over here. So you cannot have C's appearing over here. All of them will appear together, and that's why you can keep a count of the number of C's that you have and the count of number of D's that you have and so on. You don't need to keep a previous and the next counter. HH. Yep, you always have your string in this format, and there are always eight characters in it. That's why it is easier to solve this question using counts directly instead of keeping previous and current whatever. Okay. Yep. I'll just add comments. Input 8 characters. Count the number of occurrences for each character, and then add scores for each consecutive suit individually. Alright, the mysterious dial pad. Okay. A-bar discovers a mysterious dial pad with 2 buttons. To accept 2 digits each between 1 and 9. Next, accept 2 words character by character containing lower and uppercase letters with lengths matching the 2 digits. Print the first and last character of each word corresponding to the 2 digits in sequence. Okay, if I add 5, so it will print the first and the last. Okay. Alright. Fine. So this is pretty simple. Include simple CPP and main. Let's call these, have they given I1, I2, CN I1, I2. I less than I1, I plus plus, Cn, C if I equals 0 or I equals I1 minus 1, C out C. And you do this the same thing for I2 as well. I2 minus 1, C out C. And then at the end you just do a C out and L. Mysterious diamond / in out. Oops, this only printed AWT. If okay, I can do it this way, I guess. If I1 equals 1, print it once more. Similarly over here, if I2 equals 1, alright. Okay, so the code is pretty self-explanatory, I guess. You input each character of word 1, then you input each character of word 2. If it's the first or last letter, just print it. If there is only one letter, the first and last letters are one and the same, so print it twice. So when I1 is 1, the first and the last letter will be the same, so I print it one extra time, because it will be printed once by default, right? The 01 will be printed by default, but taking it as the last letter will require me to print it twice. That's why I've written this. If you don't understand this, you can understand this better, I guess. You print CE twice, else you print a C once. I think this makes more sense to you. Okay, I'll make the same changes over here. Okay. Oops. Let me see if it looks fine. Okay. That's also what is done in this code here. They just put this thing at the end instead of putting it inside, which is also fine. Yeah, this is more optimal than what I have written. But yeah, that was batch C. Yep. Okay, finally the last batch D. Okay, so the first question is pyramidal pattern. You need to print a pyramid like structure. You have to take in an integer n and print this. For n equals 4 you should have this. Okay, touch pattern.cpp. Simple cpp and main and then cn for int I equals minus then I plus plus. So there will be how many spaces? Alright, okay, let me write this over here. If you have this and this, and then the next line you'll have this, and then this. You'll have ones, let's say there are 2 spaces, and then one, two. Fine, so this guy has 4 spaces, so for each line this guy is getting 2 spaces, I guess. This looks of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4. This looks fine. They haven't given the right test cases. Fine. Okay, I think this is the pattern. So I n minus I will give me 3. So you have 4 and j equals 0, j less than n minus I minus 1, j plus plus. Okay, there are two backslashes over here. Fine. So I have this. Okay, this will give me 2, and over here it will give me 1. Fine, and then you print 2 spaces, and you'll print how many of these? For int j equals 0, j less than equal to I, j plus plus. We'll print these and then cout enter. Let's see, pyramid, we wrote out 4. Alright, this looks correct, I guess. 3 2 1 10. Fine, I guess this is correct. 15. It doesn't even fit. Okay, fine, I'll explain what I've done. So I iterate over each of the n lines of the pattern on each line. Okay, so what I saw was that when I started from here, there were 2 spaces on this side. So firstly, over here there is no space at all over here, right, on this side. Then when I add the second layer, when I make n as 2, then I saw that there are 2 spaces over here. Similarly, when I added n equals 3, okay, so when I added n equals 3, I saw that there are 4 spaces over here. 1 2 3 4. So on addition of every layer on this side, I add 2 spaces in each of the previous ones. Okay, so for a pattern of n lines, the first line will have 2 into n minus 1 spaces. The second line will have 2 into n minus 2 spaces, and so on. So I have put these 2 spaces together, so ignore this part for now and make this double spaces. Okay, yeah, so so the first line has n minus 1 spaces, so I starts from 0, that's why I have done a minus 1 over here. Then for the second line, I will be 1, this will become n minus 1. For the third line, I will be 2, and this will become n minus 3, and this will print the right number of. So for line I, where the numbering starts from 0, I'll have n minus I minus 1 double spaces. Then just print this I times I plus 1 times, since I starts from 0. So for I equals 0, this pattern is printed once over here. For I equals 1, this pattern is printed twice. For I equals 2, this pattern is printed thrice. That's why I print this I plus 1 times and then new line at the end. Yep, that's all for this question. That's what is done over here as well. Yep, okay, next question is password validator. Okay, that reads 8 characters without. If the password is valid, you can access the treasure. Alright, validator.cdp. you read 8 characters, so I'll use character arrays for int I equals 0. It can be solved similarly without arrays as well, but I just want you all to get a hang of how to use arrays in CI. Okay. Now you have 8 characters, and you need to check this stuff. So I'll create a bool set, and then cout is valid, will just sim otherwise. Alright. I can set this to true first, and then while I'm reading each character, actually instead of making just one of them, I'll make is upper, is lower, is ditch, and is instead of, I should have written contains upper, contains lower, contains digit, and finally contains special equals false, and then I'll create is valid. So is valid will simply be contains upper and contains lower and contains digit and not contains special. Now if C, okay, you don't even need a array, you can just keep one C. If C is greater than equal to A and C less than equal to A, Z, then you set contains lower to true, else if C greater than equal to A and C less than equal to Z, you set contains upper to true, else if greater than equal to 0 and C less than equal to 9, contains ditch equals true, else contains special equals true. And then that's it for this question. Pass validator and slash out. Let's try expected expression. Oops. Alright. Full ja sim. Alright. Okay. Alright, I think it will work. Alright, fine. So yeah, the code is pretty simple. You just take in the characters one by one. If the character is lowercase, you set contains lower to true. If it is uppercase, you set contains upper to true. Read in each character check if char is upper, lower digit or special, and set contains to true. Finally, check the valid condition and print the right output. Yep, that's all for this question. This is unnecessary. Okay, yeah, this code is doing the same thing. You created has digit, has special character, and all, and then you checked. Okay, that's all you have to do for this. Okay, decode message. Alright. Encoded message consisting of sequence of n characters. Decode the message. If a character appears consecutively more than once, only consider the first and ignore the subsequent repetitions. For each unique character, find its mirror counterpart. Unique character maps to Z, duplicate ignored. Consecutively more than once. Okay. So you can grab a previous character. Okay. And then you just print Z minus that. Okay, fine. The test cases are okay. The first character is an integer n. Length of the input message. Alright. Char C CN C ref C out. The assumption is that only valid uppercase letters are put. Okay, so I'll do Z minus C minus A, and I'll make this into a character. Then I'll set ref to C, and then for int I equals 1, I less than n, I plus plus CNC if C not equal to prev C out this exact thing. And then prev equals C, and then this s plus plus decode message dot slash a dot out. Okay, let's see. WVNLXI. Okay, looks correct. Republicans and algorithm. Okay, I think you had to write a function for this. Okay, decoded character. Alright, so I will explain my code what it does. So I'll just write my method of solving and I'll comment this whole thing out. Oops, wait, I'll add the comments first. So prev stores the previous character and C stores the current character. The first character is read manually, is read out of the loop. The first character is read out of the loop. Okay, so the first character is read out of the loop because prev isn't defined here. So you read the first character and you print out the correct character corresponding to C. So what is this logic here? So C minus A gives you the index of the letter. So if C was A, C minus A will be 0. Then you get the idea, right? I'll write D here. Then C minus A will be 0, 1, 2, 3. And then doing Z minus 3 will give you Z minus 3 will give you Y X W. Yep, I have the map here. Okay, yep, W, which is the right map for D. I typecast it to car to avoid printing a number. Alright, so you do this explicitly for the first letter because the first letter will always give a mapping because it is the first letter. It doesn't have any other letter before it. It is a unique character. Then you set previous character to C and take new character as input from input. If it's a new character, print its decode it basically, and set prev previous character. Yep, that was it for this question. So let me show what will happen for this. So the first letter I, it is read out of the loop. So you'll have I minus A, or just ignore these for now. Will give you, what does it give you? A, B, C, okay. 1 sec. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It will give you 8. You can compute this and see it. This will give you 8. And then you do Z minus 8, which will give you T S R. This will give you R. and you print R on the you see out R, which is what you get over here, right? R. Then you enter this loop. This loop runs n-1 times, as the first is already done with. Okay, then you read V inside the loop. Now when you read V, prev is set to I. Your previous character is I and your current character is V. Since they are not equal, previous and current are not equal, so you print the corresponding map for V, which will be E in this case, and then you set prev to V. Now this is prev and this will be cur. So since both of them are equal, then nothing will get printed for this guy. Then cur will come over here since both of the and then oops, and then this guy moves over here. So this will be your cur and this will be your prev. Since these are equal again, nothing will get printed. Now this moves here and this moves here. These two are not equal, so this is a new character. So you print the corresponding port for it. Then you move this over here and move this here. This is again a new character, and so on. You will keep printing these letters one by one and you get the answer. So that was it, all the 4 batches. The lab quiz was pretty easy, much easier than the labs, so you should have been able to solve it. If you had difficulty in solving the lab quiz, then you should have more practice. You should practice more questions, solve the optional questions that are given in labs, and you should be able to solve these easily. Okay, that's all for now.